Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And today is, what is it, June 22nd, 2022. So we have 6/22/22. I have become a student of numerology. I don't know it extremely well, but I absolutely know and believe that the numbers have frequency and they mean something. And it is one of those fields that when I have a little spare time and I'm looking for something, I feel inspired to study something. Numerology, a book on numerology is, or watching videos about numerology definitely feels like what I'm supposed to do. It's definitely a draw. And as we understand numerology, at least for me, and it began when I was studying the books, the Christ letters, because in the Christ letters, it became just so clear that what Einstein was teaching us, what Tesla was teaching us, that the world is made of mathematics. Everything we see is intelligence, it's numbers, it is, it's not scientific according to the world, because the world always looks at things from a specific perspective. It's very different or very difficult for scientists to be totally objective. Even when they are creating an experiment, I used to be married to a scientist. I used to listen to him speak about the clinical trials that they were creating. And he was the chief scientific officer. So he oversaw the preparations of those clinical trials. There was always a desired endpoint, and that desired endpoint was decided. So it wasn't fully objective because there was a destination that they were attempting to take their trial to bring a result to. So you can say that in a way, there is a manipulation that takes place, but there is so much that is happening in this world that we need to understand is mathematical. I've got somebody requesting the link, so I am going to go ahead and send this to them really quickly. But we have an opportunity in this world to move into the realm of mathematics, where we can understand science better, we can understand, interestingly enough, we can understand love better, because if we allow the truth that everything has been created with an unbelievable sense of equality, there is nothing that is better than anything else. This is a universe of consistency. It is a universe that provides the same opportunities to everybody. Every one of us was created equal. That's one of the reasons when I began to study, deliberately pay attention to the teachings of A Course in Miracles, and to look at that in contrast with what was written inside of the Constitution of the United States, specifically in the Declaration of Independence, I was able to see that what God wants us to know in the Course in Miracles is also stated in the Declaration of Independence. So mathematics, it's not personal. It's the same for everybody. 3 means 3 means 3, no matter where we are. If we add 1 + 1, it's always going to equal 2. So there is a consistency where everything is treated equally. And what unconditional love is an acceptance of everything God has created unconditionally, no conditions. Actually, love really is founded in acceptance of what is, because what is has been created by the Creator to be loved, to be accepted. Why would you create something and reject it? That's not love. Like parents who have children and then end up being abusive to those children. Why would you create that child and then reject it? Many parents have done that. Well, because they don't understand unconditional love. Their love is conditional. It's conditional in certain circumstances. You got to behave this way. You got to do things this way. Then I'll love you. But mathematics is unconditional. It's going to be the same thing no matter what. So the science that is foundational to understanding numerology is not human science. It's God science. And when we get comfortable with what God, well, actually Einstein said, he realized that there was some spooky things happening at a distance. That's when he began to realize, wow, there's a lot going on that we don't know. And when we can stay in the not knowing and allow life to just flow through us, we allow whatever is going to come through us to come through us. You know, these transmissions, when I started sharing these Ascension with A Course in Miracles events, it really was because Laina, in my heart, wanted to share what I had discovered from A Course in Miracles. And what I began to realize that was happening is that it was no longer Laina sharing what I know. It was that my body vessel became a channel for God's message, for what Jesus has been attempting to teach us. So there's really no preparation, because all I need to do is show up, be here with you, and where two or more are gathered, there is the presence of love there. Because what I have opened myself up to accepting as true, or at the very least, like numerology, since I don't know it that well, for the possibility that it is true, I have become an open channel where I get the guidance, I get the answers to my questions. They come, whether they come because I hear, feel, sense the voice. Sometimes I see things like it's been written on a board. Maybe that's why I like using dry erase boards so much, because I see it in my mind. It's like, okay, it's being written out. And sometimes it feels like I'm hearing it, even though there's not a voice. And sometimes I just feel it, and I get pictures, I get images. So I share what I'm seeing when I'm offering examples. So it became very clear early on that anybody who is, and I'm going to call it a serious student of truth, and I want to make a distinction. I've realized, I've been coaching, teaching now since 2007. So whatever the math is, 15, 16 years. I can categorize students into two categories. They all come curious. All of them come curious about what I'm going to teach, curious about the book that we're going to study, curious about the message that's in A Course in Miracles, about what's going to be in a course workshop, or curious about, I'm going to meet in this community because I've created communities. So everybody comes in curious. Where the distinction happens, where I begin to see those who are only going to go so far, and those who are going to continue and have real transformation in their lives, because curiosity just gives you information. And of course, you can be curious and begin the process of integration. And many people are curious and do some additional coaching, or they'll go to other teachers that they resonate with better, go to healers, go to therapy, and they will do some integration. But the transformation, which is the transcending of the physical form, that means you align with the truth of who you are. You need to embrace that you are non-physical energy first and foremost, and that's what you are directing. You're really not directing the physicality. That's done. The physical is done. It's already there. Now, can you affect it? Absolutely. But you can't make your body be different than what it is in this lifetime, because we are not, as a collective, at that higher frequency yet. We are still operating in the density of the collective. So yes, we can affect change our attitude, change our frequency, change the chemicals that are pouring through our mind based on the neurological pathways that we are creating with the truths that we are believing. So curiosity will lead you to those awarenesses, and it will lead you to shifting your mind and having some, in many cases, many moments of integration and many moments of shifting. But the true transformation is reserved for only those who are serious. And I don't mean serious with a serious face and we're going to do this work, we're going to make it happen. It's the ones who are seriously committed to letting the truth be what they live by. Obviously, those of you who are here, that's what this is about. It's a seriousness because you don't want to suffer anymore. We take it seriously, aligning with the truth of who we are. Course in Miracles states in the manual for teachers that all are called into transformation. All are called into liberation, to remember God's will for us. Everybody is called to that. And it says that very few will achieve that. And the reason very few achieve that is because our ego distracts us. And if you're curious but not serious, you can only go so far. Because once you get curious about something and you label yourself a seeker, and you let different things distract you. You'll go here, you'll go there. I did that for a while. I had to go visit all kinds of things for a while. That distraction is actually the ego purposely keeping us from going all the way into the truth of who we are. So that's a temptation. So we have to learn how to harness our curiosity, activate our focus, because the only thing, or not the only thing, but one of the things that we have to take control over is our attention. We cannot be easily distracted. Oh, there's a sale. Oh, there's, a buy one, get one free workshop. Oh, there's, a new place, a new thing. We cannot let ourselves be distracted by the shiny things that the ego uses to tempt us away from going to the deep place. That's why in none of my classes ever will I teach about manifestation, law of attraction, how to get rich, how to get a lover, how to whatever. I don't teach those things because those are the distractions in the world that keep us from coming to know the truth of who we are. The serious student knows to stop seeking and goes within. Goes within to find God inside, to find all of the ways that we have blocked God, to look at how we are the ones who've been sabotaging ourselves because we went outside of ourselves and we were trained that way. From the moment that we enter this physical realm, we enter into communities that are filled with unconscious people. Those unconscious people can only teach us what they know. And if they were not serious, many of them were not even curious, they can't help you find God inside because they are distracted with the outside. And one way to test if your parents were distracted with the outside is look at the ways that they attempted to control you. Did they try to make you look a certain way, behave a certain way, get a certain education, marry a certain person, create a certain life that looks a certain way, and praised you when you achieved external things? Then they were outer focused. That's just the way all of us, most of us, I would say 99.9% of the population, grew up with outer focused parents. When we are serious, we need to let go of the outer world and take the time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours a week, and just go inside. Now, it used to be that the real serious people could go to an ashram, to India. They could go spend a couple of years there. We have wonderful teachers who did that. Ram Dass is one of those teachers. He left the US and immersed himself studying with a guru and came to find the truth. But of course, once he did that and he discovered the truth, then he didn't need to stay there because he didn't need to stay at the place where he discovered happiness. He discovered happiness was inside of him and took that happiness to share it with others around the world. But today, it's not as easy to go to an ashram or go to a cave or go sit under a tree like Buddha did for 7 years. We have to do this work where we are. We have to bloom where we're planted. And the blooming for a plant doesn't come from the external circumstances only. It comes from an internal connection rooted in the ground, accepting what is outside as assistance, but the work is done inside. The sunlight is shifted inside. The water that is received from the outside is processed inside. The roots go deep inside and are pulling from the nutrients of the soil. All of that happens inside. And that is what I am so grateful that you are here today to have this opportunity to let's go inside today. So as I was asking, okay, what are we going to talk about today? I was guided into we need to revise lesson 100 in A Course in Miracles. And lesson 100 is really beautiful. And it's one that you have heard me talk about many, many times, especially if you're in multiple classes of mine through all these years. The title of lesson 100 is My Part is Essential in God's Plan for Salvation. My part is essential in God's plan for salvation. We need to know our part in God's plan for salvation. That we have to become super serious about God's plan for salvation. What is God's plan for salvation? And don't stop until you know it. And you're only going to know God's plan for salvation because you're going to feel it inside. It's an activation within that assists with the transformation to assist us in transcending physical form. And we begin transcending form by transcending the outer shiny things, not having attachments to lovers or houses or stuff in the closet or trips or titles or money. Beginning to not need the outer things is a way that we begin the process of moving deeper into our understanding of our part in God's plan for salvation. The next thing that we have to let go of is we have to let go of believing that this body is who we are. So it really starts very clearly with the external. Typically, we let go what people think of us first. Sometimes we have to let go of a marriage or a house or maybe the death of a child, where we let go of that relationship before we can begin to change our mind about what other people think. But oftentimes I've seen it happen where we let go of what we think before we have to let go of external things. But inevitably, we have to come to the place where we let go of this physical vessel as being what is real about us. It is part of what we are, and we're using it. So there is a reality to the use of it, to the need for it. But when not understood, by understanding our plan in God's plan for salvation, our part in it, then the body is being misused. So we need to learn how to use the body appropriately, but you can't use the body appropriately until you let go of your ideas of how the body is supposed to be used. So we enter into this space of contemplation. We come inside, we take these beautiful lessons and apply them. And here is what this beautiful lesson wants us to understand. So again, lesson 100. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. Paragraph 1. Just as God's son, daughter, completes his father, mother, remember, don't get caught up in the words. This is why it's important to be a serious student, because a curious student hears, oh, God, Father, But a serious student of truth knows that words are made up. So if we made up the word Father, we made up the word Mother, we made up the word God, it doesn't matter. It's made up. We want to feel the essence of the word God. What does that really mean? For me, it is very simple. God is the energy of the source of love. God is the source of the energy of love. Doesn't matter how you say it, it all comes back to the same thing. So there's an intelligence that treats all of us equally. That's what love is, an acceptance of all that is, and an enjoyment of it because we created to enjoy it. And so that's what God becomes. Now, God is masculine, feminine energy because God is everything. So when you hear the word Father, you know, when you are a serious student, because you know truth, you know Father is just a quick word that Jesus used, because when the Course in Miracles was given to us, it was given primarily to those who had a general understanding of Christianity. So there's a lot of Christian language in the Course in Miracles, including the word salvation. And salvation in A Course in Miracles simply means to spare ourselves of suffering. So you can read this. My part is essential to God's plan for sparing myself from suffering, for sparing the world from suffering. It's essential. And we also know that as within, so without. So I got to spare me of the suffering in my mind. I've got to go inside and change what's happening in here. Then I can be the change I want to see in the world. So all these things tie together and make sense when we become a serious student of truth, because you're moving out of the wanting to become a Buddhist or wanting to become a guru or wanting to become a certified coach of whatever law of attraction process. Once you're not seeking to become anything and you are accepting what you are, you absolutely know that you have to feel resonance. Back to the mathematics of things that we talked about earlier. Everything is math. Everything is God's science. Everything is law. And there's an intelligence that runs everything. And you can understand it if you know numbers, as Einstein and Tesla did. You can understand it if you feel frequency, as Jesus did. He felt God in him. He knew he and the Father were one because he felt it. He also knew he and the Father, Mother were one. But we use the word Father because this is taught primarily for people who understand Christianity, and anybody who does not follow Christianity, who might be Jewish, who might be Muslim, those, or study Islam. The word Father is very prevalent in those religions as well. So it really applies to a broad spectrum of the children of God who are finding their way back to the truth, finding their way back home. So just as God's Son completes his Father, so your part in it completes your Father's plan. Our part in God completes the Father's plan. What that means is that when God created us, God is the infinite, omniscient, omnipotent. It's all that is. We are inside of God. Religion has taught us that we're over here and God's outside of us. And I used to think to myself, how can God be infinite if I'm outside of God? It doesn't make any sense. As a child, that was one of the first things that was like, when I learned about infinity in elementary, I think it was more like in middle school. And I grew up Catholic, and I went to school in a church, or I'm sorry, a nuns run school. And I'm learning about infinity, and I'm hearing about the Father is infinite. And I'm going, well, how can it be infinite if I'm outside of it? So Course in Miracles made it super easy to explain, because the nuns definitely didn't know. All they could tell me is, well, that's just the way that it is. No different than my mother, my grandmother, and everybody else that indoctrinated me with things that are not true. So knowing that our part in God's plan is only possible when we understand that we complete the Father as well. We are part of God. So there's a lot of work that takes place in renewing our mind to let go of the beliefs of fear of God, of separation from God, of all kinds of misperceptions that have been taught to us through organized religion about God, and come to know that God is energy. And once you know God is energy, well, mathematically, you cannot not be energy. How do you cut and divide it? You can't. So all of those things help us in getting our mind straight. That's why you have to be serious about this journey, because you cannot be distracted and become tempted by the fun thing of the day. You've got to be willing to go all the way to the depths of the truth. So sentence 2, salvation must reverse the mad belief in separate thoughts and separate bodies, which lead separate lives and go their separate ways. Listen to what Jesus calls it: mad beliefs in separation. We're not separate from one another. It's not possible when you understand that we are energy. We're all made of the exact same substance. We appear to be separate for a reason, so that appearing to be separate, we can then experience all that God has created. So for me, to be able to have an experience of loving all that is, I must accept that I am inside of God. There is nothing that is ultimately separate from us. We're all energy, but we appear to be separate for me to begin to accept, to understand what love is. So all of these things that have been taught to us that say that we're separate bodies and we're separate from one another, we're separate cities and separate continents and separate, all of that's made up. All of that is made up because we could just as easily teach that we are all in one universe, which is the truth. And we could narrow it down to we're all part of one galaxy, and that's true. You could say we're all part of one solar system. That's true. What we're not told is that we're all part of one world. And when we begin to understand that we are part of one world and that all the boundaries are man-made, God didn't say this is Delaware and that's, Michigan, or this is Europe and that's the US. We were given a planet without labels. We were given a planet without signs and directions and divisions and no separation. We were given a planet of infinite abundance. And now we have people telling us that they want to create a new world order. But I'll tell you what, there is an old world order, and it's God's order because it ordered everything perfectly. And the world was just fine until men and women decided to manipulate the knowledge that we had to create separation and division. That's why it's called here mad beliefs. It's crazy. It's insane. And what is happening to the world today is we have a few people who really want to keep things separate. And they are attempting to order all of us so that we listen to them so that they can maintain us at the separate distance that they want to maintain us so that they can be comfortable. Well, guess what? Those people are not only not curious about the truth, they're not going to find the truth because they're only serious about one thing, and that's perpetuating the lies. The mad beliefs that perpetuate that we're separate thoughts, that we're separate bodies, that we're supposed to lead separate ways and go our separate ways because they want to just do a conglomeration of humanity and tell all of humanity what to do while they're in their separate little pedestal, ivory tower somewhere, deciding the fate of everybody else. So we are at a time in this beautiful planet where understanding the truth of who we are is not only necessary to end suffering, but it is crucial for the salvation of humanity. And again, salvation is to spare humanity ongoing suffering. It is time for us to stop that. And those who are serious about stopping that suffering are the ones who are going to come to find the truth that God wants us to understand is true about ourselves and about everybody else. So let me go on to welcome, Yuri. So we are in lesson 100 right now in A Course in Miracles. The title of it is My Part is Essential to God's Plan for Salvation. So we're in paragraph 1 and we're in sentence number 3. One function shared by separate minds unites them in one purpose, for each one of them is equally essential to all of them. So here again, when we understand that if two or more are gathered and we share one common thought, one common idea, it unites us. Immediately we come together. And from that common idea, then we gain this one purpose. And now we become essential to the expansion of that idea, of that purpose. Well, when those who run the world not understanding God's plan for them and are literally blocking God's will with their own egoic will, they really believe that the way to bring people together, interestingly enough, is by dividing them. We will get this group to believe in this political way of looking at things, and this group in this political way of looking at things, and we have them separate, but they will think that they're together. And what that perpetuates is this group now can be against this group, but they think that they are one. They think they're doing God's plan because they are in a group that they are together with. We do this with race. We have this group that is white, that group that is yellow, that group that is black, and we are basically taught to be in fear of one another or to be in awe of this one, but not that one. And we are made to feel that we're together with our group, but what is really happening is perpetuating that we're separate from a different group. Well, if we are one, if God created all of it, if God is infinite and we're inside of it, then we're all part of the same mishmash of energy that is expressing itself in infinite ways, because God is infinite. So therefore, God cannot just produce apples. I mean, what kind of a world would it be if all we had was apples? If God, and for God to create like itself, it would have to be an apple. And for there to only be apple, there would only be apple and that's it. Well, where's a worm going to come from that is going to eat that apple? Where's the sun going to come from that is going to help the apple grow? Or what about the water? What about the dirt? We need an infinite array of beautiful, diverse things that create this beautiful symphony called life. That, you know, you look, go to the Amazon, go to the forest, you see the multiplicity of diversity. All of it coexists together because they're not buying into that these are just the oak trees and these are just the corn trees and these are just the apple trees and those are just the worms. They don't listen to that. Why? Because only humans are, I'm going to say, smart enough to think that they know it all, but dumb enough to only believe what they've been taught and not be curious about something else. So we've got some beautiful opportunities here as we study this one lesson to begin to see that God is reminding us, well, Jesus is reminding us the truths about God, that one function shared by separated minds unites them in one purpose. If we stop believing in separate political ideologies and begin to get to what do we all want? Well, we all want safety. We all want freedom. We all want to be happy. You know, we all want to live in peace. Well, if we focused on that, we would literally strengthen the collective. Well, that's not convenient for those who want to control and separate and who believe that they win by controlling the different groups and having a group pick them versus everybody else. So that mindset of division is so ingrained in us that we have to move beyond what is happening and find what is common and reach across the aisle to people of different religions, different beliefs, different political parties, different ideologies, sometimes in our own families, and begin to connect with where we are the same, where we want the same thing. Let me go to paragraph number 2. God's will for you is perfect happiness. So if God wills for us perfect happiness, do you think God would have created us without our knowing that happiness is our birthright? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. How would the apple tree its purpose be to produce apples if God didn't put the essence of apple in the apple tree? How would the oak tree be an oak tree if it didn't put in the acorn, the oak, that essence of the oak tree so that it can come forward? Well, God placed in us happiness, and we see it in little children. Nobody teaches a child how to smile, how to be happy. Happiness just begins to bubble from them at a certain point in development, even little bitty ones, 1 day old. And actually, I had this experience with one of my children. In the womb, there was a sonogram done, and one of my babies was smiling. So smiling, expressing joy is part of who we are, is innate in each and every one of us. So God wills for you perfect happiness. And just as God wills for the apple tree to produce apples, if God wills happiness for us, then happiness is in us. Our work is to bring it forward. So why should you choose to go against God's will? If God wants you to be happy, why are so many people miserable? The part that he has saved for you to take in working out his plan for salvation, is given you that you might be restored to what he wills. So there is a part for us to play. And we have got to get curious about, I wonder how that happens. And most of us, the curiosity starts with, I want to be happy. I want a job that makes me happy. I want a marriage that makes me happy. I want more money so I can be happy buying a new car. I want more, I want more recognition in my company. It'll make me happier when I get the corner office. Again, all outer things to satisfy this internal urge for happiness. So we all know that we want to be happy. So if God planned for us to be happy, if it's already inside of us, then it says that it wants just to restore what he wills. We have got to just restore our mind to thinking rightly, to thinking truth. That's why we have to go inside. The outside world taught us wrongly and had us go outside of ourselves to find happiness outside of ourselves, to find completion in another. Jerry Maguire, you complete me. So that idea of going outside is one of the very first things that we must change. And to change it, you got to be serious about coming inside. And you've got to commit to the practices that are not comfortable, because you've got to recognize that you are wrong, flat out wrong. Most of our beliefs are wrong. That I need somebody to complete me, wrong. That I need something external to be happy, wrong. That I need money to be somebody, wrong. So to be able to tell ourselves we're wrong is very, very difficult. It's very difficult because to be wrong feels like we're a failure. And you know where that came from? Our mother, fathers, and teachers, and the preacher all did a wonderful job of indoctrinating all of us into a system of rewards and punishments. If you did it right, you're rewarded. If you did it wrong, you're a bad boy. You're a bad girl. You're going to go to your room. You're going to be alone. You're going to be shamed in front of the class. You're going to go to hell. So we don't want to be punished. So when we say I'm wrong, we don't want to punish ourselves. But here's the thing. To admit that you're wrong is actually to liberate yourself to finding out by getting curious to what is right. Well, if my way is making me miserable, what is the other way? And that's where we have to understand that it is up to us to restore God's plan for salvation. And to restore God's plan is to restore our mind by questioning what we are believing that is not true, that blocks what is true, that is already inside of us, like the apple is already in the seed. It's in the apple tree. It's a given. It's going to produce those apples. Have you ever seen an apple tree produce plums? I haven't. So we've got to get really clear. If our purpose is to be happy, why are we not producing lives that are filled with joy? Why? Only one reason. You're not believing that. That's a lie. Right there, that is a wrong belief that we have to correct. All right, so paragraph still number 2, sentence 4. So this part is as essential to his plan as to your happiness, the restoring of the memory of what we are, the restoring of the memory of the plan. We got to get curious and find out what is God's plan, and then we got to get serious and embody it. Do whatever it takes to embody it. So sentence number 5 says, your joy must be complete to let his plan be understood by those to whom he sends you. Most of my students come to me because they go, Laina, your life seems so peaceful and happy. I want some of that. So this is what is meant by when you are joyful and happy. Why do you think people came to Jesus and followed him? Came from all kinds of places. If they had Facebook, social media in the days of Jesus, he would have had the biggest following of anybody, because the man still thousands of years later has billions of people on this planet that knew he was the teacher of love. They wanted some of that love. They wanted some of his connection with God. They wanted some of his peace and his ability to perform miracles. Why? Because they knew that that would make them feel good, make them feel happy. So we've got to restore the truth that is inside of us and let the fruits of our joy be seen by everyone, because they will see their function in your shining face and hear God calling to them in your happy laugh. If you allow yourself to be a happy being, restore yourself to sanity, and only accept the function God has given you, you'll be happy and nothing will be missing. Now, that does not mean that you will stop being inspired, that you will stop having desires. That doesn't go away, but it comes from inside, not to go get something, but rather to express and extend in such a way that others see it and they want what you have. So you see, we don't have to, oh, I got to go get money so that I can buy this stuff. No, be happy. Know that you are the creator of your reality. And in your happiness, others see that you're happy. And if you are a happy bread maker, if you're a happy, whatever, politician, if you're a happy housewife, if you're a happy teacher, if you're a happy hamburger flipper at McDonald's, people are going to want to come to your area. They're going to want to come back to your lane. They want to come to the cashier that is smiling at the grocery store. And as we allow ourselves to have those drawn to us who are wanting more of what we have, we are going to be given so many ideas of what to bring to the world, be it wonderful, what do you call those things? Inventions like Tesla did, like Einstein did. Those things, formulas that Einstein got, those things will come through you, and the world will more than reward everybody who is bringing forth the truth of who they are, and in their happy joy of expressing it, everything will be taken care of. So we have a ways to go before humanity, and it's happening with the generation of children born in the last, I'm going to say 20, 30 years. I know for sure my children, they only want to do what they're happy doing. They don't want to just have jobs for a paycheck. They do what they are happy doing, no matter what that looks like. For one son, it looks like stocking shelves at Publix. He loves doing that. It's so rewarding for him because he knows exactly what to do and he can do it. That allows the essence of God to come through him, and he's constantly smiling. People love Tony because he is the presence of God at the grocery store. I've got another child who has discovered a passion for carpentry. He was doing that, working part-time for a contractor while he was going to college for photography, which he loves photography, but realized he loves carpentry. Well, he worked as a carpenter for a corporation and then decided, you know what, I don't want to do it that way. So he quit his job and now he just does carpentry work for if people need it. And some people cannot pay him for it, but they trade things. They trade vegetables, they trade room and board. And he's currently staying with somebody where he is helping facilitate some construction work, and they're housing him. And he says it's so much more fulfilling to do the thing that he loves to do for what he needs to get, not just to go get money to then go get in debt and buy a house and pay for things that are inconsequential to him. So children are very clear. They're not going to buy into these old structures, these old systems of spending a ton of money in school, coming out of school in debt, getting a job that barely pays minimum wage, and then working for 40, 50, 60 hours a week and have very little left at the end of the day because they got to pay for the car to get them there. So they got a car loan, and you can't have a car loan without insurance. You can't have a car loan without a car without gas, and then oil and repairs, and it's like crazy. It's a never ending list of things that we've got to go get out in the outer world when it's actually very simple. And life is going to return us to the time when we are going to be a lot more conscious about trading. We're going to be a lot more conscious about only needing what we need in the moment and not hoarding because I got to retire. I got to have all this money to retire. When we move into flow with life, if our purpose is to be happy, do you think we're going to end up going to retirement and not be taken care of? Hello, lilies of the valley. Are the lilies worried about their retirement? No, they're just being their happy selves. So we've got to return our mind, declutter it from all of these, as it says in here, mad beliefs, all those lies that we've been taught. We have to release them. And to release those lies, you got to get really comfortable with being wrong. We've been wrong. So let me go on to the next paragraph. You are indeed essential to God's plan. Without your joy, his joy is incomplete. And it's not that God's not happy because we are, choosing to be miserable and whining and complaining all the time, because that's what we've been taught is, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. God's not unhappy because we are miserable. But each one of us is a fractal of God. Each one of us is like a cell in the whole body that God is. One cell that is not experiencing its light is joy, is one cell that is a little darkened. It's like blot. That cell is calling for love. So God's joy is only complete when all of us are joyful, because each and every one of us is a crucial component in what God is. This is why understanding that we are inside of God, not separate from, and definitely not in hierarchies in relation to God, but we are one in the body, one in what energy is. And understanding that allows us to realize that we are a crucial time. Back to this important number. Last night we had the solstice, 6/21/22. A couple days ago, we had the full moon. All of the things that are happening outside, when you understand how they all operate with God's plan for salvation, when you understand that everything is being used to support our emancipation, everything is for us to renew our Declaration of Independence. And we cannot become independent until we become first independent in our own mind. We cannot be under the lies that have been taught to us. We need to emancipate ourselves from a thought system that is mad beliefs, that is blocking us from remembering the truth of who we are, restoring our awareness that happiness is our purpose. And when we do that, then we are remembering our planning in our part in God's plan, knowing that we are a cell in the infinite body of God, and our purpose is to be happy. Turn on your joy. And once we recognize that that is really, truly who we are, like a child is born already joyful, nobody teaches them that, we are restoring ourselves to God's will. Can you imagine the world that we're going to co-create if everybody is happy and doing their happy thing? Well, we don't know what that world looks like because we've only known the world of unhappy people and people on Prozac and people drugging and drinking to, at the end of the day. That's the only way I knew my father. He was drunk every night because he had so much pressure from his wife, from society to provide, to do manly things. You know what? I am so sorry that I didn't really get to know my father that well. I don't know what made him happy. But what's interesting is that when he passed away, unbeknownst to me, he was an avid reader of spiritual books. My stepmom said that my dad wanted me to have several books. One of them is a book of poetry by Omar Khayyam, which I absolutely love. And there's some profound things in that book. The other book that was left to me was Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Intention. And when I read that, began to open up that book, which I had not read. Well, actually, let me say something. I read The Power of Intention about a year after my dad died, not because my stepmom gave it to me. My stepmom gave me my dad's books about a couple years after he died, when she was beginning to wind down and she was getting up in age. And then eventually she sent me my dad's books. And I realized, wow, the book that I was reading, Power of Intention, was the very book that was sent to me. And as I saw what my dad underlined, he was underlining all of the ways for him to be happy, to move out of suffering. How could he intend a happy life? So I know my dad was seeking happiness as much as I was. I, in my lifetime, was able to access more of the truth within myself. My dad, he was seeking, he was curious, and he was studying, but never quite went inside and found it in there, because he died miserable. So let me keep going. So without your smile, let me read paragraph 3 from the beginning. You are indeed essential to God's plan. Without your joy, his joy is incomplete. Without your smile, the world cannot be saved. While you are sad, the light that God himself appointed as the means to save the world is dim and lusterless, and no one laughs because all laughter can but echo yours. Do you remember the saying, laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you cry alone? That always made sense to me. Always made sense to me. But I always saw that for a lot of people, that wasn't the case. Some people laughed and people laughed with them. Some people cried and they had a bunch of people crying with them. It was like, wait a second. There's that other saying, misery loves company. And I saw, well, how can laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and cry? How can that be true if misery also loves company? I was one of these children that I had a very logical mind. So don't tell me God is infinite and it's outside of me. Don't tell me that you cry alone and then misery loves company. How can that be? So I spent a lot of my time as a young person trying to understand things that were nonsensical to me. It's like, how can that be? So what this is attempting to tell us is that it is inside of us to be happy. It's part of who we are. The world today needs more happy people because happy people cannot be controlled. Happy people don't buy into fear. Happy people cannot be corralled into false ideas of safety, because happy people sense what is joyful, what is not. Very quick, very sensitive, and recognize, wait a second, you're trying to pull me into something and take away my rights, my freedoms. You want to put stuff on my face and I can't breathe. And wait a second, how can that be? And if we give ourselves permission to begin to question what we have been taught and see, does that thought allow me to feel my happiness or not? Does that law allow me to experience life, liberty, and happiness? Does that law apply equally to everybody? If it does not, then you have an opportunity to question a thought that you have that might be wrong. Joyfully say, then that's not my truth. And if you measure everything by God's plan for you, what we will discover, what we are, we have been discovering it, is that everybody that comes to know God inside and feels the presence of the Creator within and heals the mind's misperceptions, let go of the beliefs, stop living in the past, stop doing things today because you did it 20 years ago or 50 years ago, and decide to be new, be born again every moment, every now moment, be somebody new who is in alignment with God's purpose for them. We are going to, in our joy, become so bright. Our smiles are going to attract those who are like-minded, and together that group is creating. And you know, that is actually the order that the world is going to. We don't need somebody telling us about a new world order and they're trying to control us. There is an order to this world, and God set it in motion in the creation of it. Our work is to stop disordering the world by believing things that are not true, creating division, separation, seeing colors as justification for staying away from certain groups, and stop focusing on what makes us different by making a commitment to find where are we the same. And if you take what the Course in Miracles is telling you as true, meaning you're a serious student of truth because you are not going to change what the Course is telling you. You're applying what the Course is telling you. In the very introduction to the Course, it tells you that this Course is not for you to interpret. This Course is for you to accept. Even if it takes you a long time to accept it, that's okay. But it will not work for you if you don't accept it word for word. And when you accept that God has a plan for your salvation, and it includes you being happy, and you practice that, and you find your happiness, your joy will radiate in such a way that you will become a beacon of light for all others to see. Now, our family, our friends are usually the last ones to see that in us, because you can't be a prophet in your own community, your own land. You've got to become the change you want to see in the world, and know that many won't see it around you because they knew you the old way. They knew you the old grumpy, depressed, controlling, fearful way. It's hard for them to believe that you really changed until you embody it consistently. And don't expect them to even get it then. You become it consistently, and God will match you up with the people that are meant to be the new ones that you collaborate with, because there is order in this world. And it is ordered by a creator that is pure intelligence. Mathematically, this planet, this universe, scientifically, God science, not man science, the true scientific nature of the universe is mathematical. It involves numbers. This is why I said in the beginning, today being 6/22/22 is if you study numerology, you learn a lot of things about the perfection of the world. And Einstein told us, if you understand what 369 is all about, you'll have all the answers to the universe. I'm still trying to find those. I'm still studying that because I do want to know what Tesla knows. But for now, my focus is to know what God knows is true and to become that which God says I am. I stopped arguing with God. And you know why I stopped arguing with God? Because letting myself feel that happiness is my purpose, that happiness is in me. When I began to let myself believe that that was true, I let go of the lies that I am, I'm exhausted. I am stressed out. I let go of all those words and only accepted that I am happy. And the days that I didn't feel happy, I knew I was blocking it. And like a cloudy day, those clouds would dissipate. The lies would dissipate at some point when I shine the light of truth. And of course, the happiness would activate at some point. And then I affirmed, this is my truth. This is how God created me. This is my purpose, is to be happy. So I enjoyed it, milked that as much as I could for as long as I could. And then, clouds would come by, but I knew that cloud will go away. So I became very serious about the truth that is true always. So the invitation is for you to accept that God has a plan for you. And it is crucial for the salvation of the whole world, because when we find our happiness and our joy and we don't settle for anything else, we become the beacons that all others are looking to remember their truth. That's why we're so crucial, because each and every one of us could influence 10, 20, 100. Isn't that what we want? A world of happy people? Well, that's a return to the old order that God has for this world, and it will never change. Not only are we created equal, but we were created to experience eternal life. That's what gets rid of all fears of death. To experience liberty, we are free. Don't buy into somebody trying to fit you into their box. And when you know these things are true, happiness is going to be the only thing that you will be. You don't even have to pursue it, but you have to pursue the blocks against it. So with that, let me stop. Next week, we'll pick up on paragraph number 4, because this is just such a yummy lesson. We definitely want to continue here. But I would want to ask those of you who are here to unmute yourselves and share. Did you get any nuggets from today's conversation? And of course, this will be up in the Patreon channel later on for those of you who might have gotten here late, or you want to come back and listen to this later. And share with your friends that these messages, these transmissions are available, and have them join the community and build it. All right. If anybody wants to unmute yourselves and share your experience, great. Hello, Kat.
Hi. There were so many nuggets. I mean, there always are. Trying to remember, there was a couple I was going to focus on, but the whole thing about we're meant to be happy, like all the time.
Yep.
Not just when things are going well. Particularly when things are not, quote unquote, going well.
Yeah.
And that's just a judgment right there.
Yeah.
So again, I say this all, it's just, it renews, it deepens my understanding of just what I know, really what I know. So I just so appreciate it. And that was a beautiful lesson, beautiful. I just so many nuggets. I really appreciate it. I do.
Well, thank you for joining us and for sharing with me that you're receiving those nuggets, because that's the whole reason that I surrender to God's will, that I become a teacher, is because I was told, you know, when the teacher is ready, the students just appear. Or when the students are ready, whatever the saying goes.
Whatever.
And
Yeah.
matches, there's a perfect match that happens. And you have been one of those beautiful, delightful students who has always been curious and serious about getting to the bottom of the truth. So thank you, because it just makes doing what I do so fun. Thank you, sweetie.
You're welcome.
Yes, yes. Well, next week we'll continue the next part of this, and it's really so beautiful because it goes into more of an exercise, and because it's lesson 100. So if you want to read it before we meet, great. And then if not, we'll go over it next week. And, anyways, anybody else want to share? Just unmute yourself. And if not,
hi, Laina.
Hello, Yuri.
I literally just got home from being on tour for 2 weeks, and really, because since I love so much what I get to do, and I'm blessed to be able to do in my career, and then to get in and hear what just the half a lesson that I got to hear, just really made me smile, and I'm thankful for you.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you do what you love to do. That means you're doing what God inspired you to, as a gift, to bring to the planet. So thank you so much for that. And
I fully believe that.
Yes. And if you, catch up with last week's call, it's inside of Patreon, and this one, all of them will be there. And I am so grateful for you guys to meet with me on Wednesdays at noon. This is like one of my favorite hours of the week. So it's just so delightful because amazing things happen. I feel the vibration of the message, the transmission when it moves through me, and I just trust that it's what everybody is meant to hear, regardless of what the message is. So you make that possible for me to feel being an instrument of God's will. And thank you so much. So my friends, I'll see you next week. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Love you too.
You do as well.
Thank
Thank you, Laina.
Thank you so much.
Of
Bye-bye.
course. Bye-bye.